The municipal courtroom hummed with the quiet energy of morning proceedings. Sunlight filtered through tall windows, casting a warm glow on the worn wooden surfaces that had witnessed countless stories of human complexity. Judge Robert Harlow adjusted his reading glasses, his weathered hands moving with the practiced precision of a man who had spent decades navigating the intricate landscape of municipal justice. Sarah Thompson stood before him, her navy blue professional blazer slightly wrinkled from an early morning that had clearly been more challenging than most. A worn leather briefcase sat on the table beside her, its surface telling stories of countless late nights and challenging cases. Her posture was straight but not rigid, a delicate balance of professional composure and human vulnerability. Miss Thompson, Harlow's voice carried the weight of years of judicial experience. You're here regarding a traffic violation on Cedar Street, is that correct? Sarah nodded, her response measured and respectful. Yes, Your Honor. There are some extenuating circumstances I'd like to explain. The courtroom felt heavy with anticipation. Other waiting individuals shifted uncomfortably in their seats, some checking their watches, others scrolling through their phones. But something about Sarah's demeanor suggested this was more than a typical traffic hearing. Harlow shuffled through the documents, his reading glasses perched precariously on the bridge of his nose. The file seemed straightforward, a seemingly simple traffic violation that appeared cut and dry. But Sarah's presence suggested complexity lurked beneath the surface. I'm listening, Harlow said, his tone suggesting he was more interested in moving through the morning's docket than delving into details. Sarah took a deep breath. The fluorescent lights overhead cast a stark illumination on her face, highlighting the determination in her eyes. She knew each word needed to be carefully chosen, each explanation precisely articulated. On the morning of March 15th, she began, her voice clear and steady. I was responding to an urgent work-related communication. My typical route was unexpectedly blocked by emergency road maintenance. Her explanation hung in the air, waiting to be evaluated. The courtroom remained silent, the collective breath of those present seeming to pause in anticipation of the judge's response. Harlow's fingers drummed a subtle rhythm on the case file. Years of judicial experience had trained him to read between the lines, to understand the unspoken narratives that often accompanied seemingly mundane legal proceedings. The traffic violation seemed simple on paper, a momentary deviation from standard traffic regulations, but Sarah's presence suggested a narrative more complex than a mere administrative infraction. Her briefcase caught Harlow's attention. Unlike many who appeared in his courtroom, this wasn't just another piece of luggage. It was a professional tool, slightly worn but meticulously maintained, the kind of accessory carried by someone who took their professional responsibilities seriously. Sarah waited, her hands clasped in front of her. Not nervously, but with a calm assurance that suggested she was accustomed to presenting complex arguments. Her posture spoke of someone used to high-pressure environments, someone who understood the nuanced dance of professional communication. The courtroom around them seemed to hold its collective breath. Other waiting individuals continued their minor movements, a cough here, a whisper there, but the space between Sarah and Judge Harlow felt charged with an unspoken narrative. Harlow leaned forward slightly, the motion suggesting he was about to make a decision that would significantly impact the morning's proceedings. His glasses reflected the morning light, creating a momentary glare that obscured his eyes. Continue, he said simply, those single words carrying the weight of judicial deliberation. And with that single word, the stage was set for a story that was about to unfold, a narrative that promised to be far more than a routine traffic hearing. The moment stretched between them like a taut wire, vibrating with unspoken tension. Judge Harlow's initial ruling had landed with the weight of a gavel strike, creating a moment of profound stillness in the courtroom. Sarah's shoulders dropped almost imperceptibly, a subtle movement that betrayed her professional composure. Years of legal training had taught her to maintain control, but this moment challenged every ounce of her carefully constructed demeanor. The fine was substantial, not just a monetary penalty, but a judgment that seemed to carry additional weight. an invisible burden that pressed down on her professional reputation. Her eyes, usually bright with determination, now held a complexity of emotions: frustration, disappointment, and a quiet resolve. Around her, the courtroom continued its mechanical rhythm. Papers shuffled. Chairs creaked. The ambient sounds of municipal justice created a backdrop to her internal struggle. Yet Sarah remained perfectly still, processing the unexpected turn of events. Her mind raced through potential responses. As a federal prosecutor, she was accustomed to navigating complex legal landscapes. But this moment felt different. Personal. Challenging. The systematic efficiency that typically defined her professional life had been momentarily disrupted. Judge Harlow, seemingly unaware of the depth of his impact, had already begun preparing for the next case. His movements were practiced, efficient, the routine of a man who had processed thousands of similar proceedings throughout his career. Sarah's briefcase, positioned carefully on the table, seemed to tell its own story. Scuff marks from late-night case preparations, a small ink stain from a hurried note, professional artifacts that spoke of dedication and commitment. She understood the importance of protocol. Challenging a judge's immediate ruling required strategic thinking, not emotional outburst. Each word, each action would be carefully considered. "Your Honor," Sarah began, her voice controlled but carrying an underlying current of respectful determination. "Might I request a moment to provide additional context?" Harlow paused, his attention momentarily redirected. Something in her tone suggested this was more than a typical plea for leniency. Years of judicial experience had trained him to recognize nuance, to hear the unspoken narratives behind legal proceedings. The courtroom around them seemed to hold its collective breath. Other waiting individuals continued their minor movements. A cough here, a whispered conversation there. But the space between Sarah and Judge Harlow felt charged with an unspoken narrative. Her professional attire, tailored navy blazer, crisp white shirt, carefully selected accessories, spoke of someone who understood the power of presentation. Each element carefully chosen, each detail meticulously considered. Harlow's glasses reflected the morning light, creating a momentary glare that obscured his eyes. His hands, weathered from years of legal work, rested on the case file. Those hands had signed countless documents, made numerous decisions that had significantly impacted individual lives. Sarah's request hung in the air, waiting to be evaluated. Not a challenge, but an invitation to understand. Her posture remained straight but not rigid, a delicate balance of professional respect and personal conviction. The courtroom's ambient sounds seemed to fade, creating a moment of unexpected intimacy. Two professionals, separated by judicial hierarchy, yet connected by a shared commitment to understanding. Harlow's fingers drummed a subtle rhythm on the case file. The motion suggested contemplation, a momentary pause in the mechanical progression of municipal justice. "You have 1 minute," he finally responded, his tone suggesting this was more a courtesy than a genuine invitation. But in that single minute, Sarah knew she had an opportunity to transform a potentially negative interaction into a moment of mutual understanding. Her eyes met the judge's, a silent communication passing between them. Not a challenge, not a plea, but a genuine invitation to look beyond the surface of a seemingly simple traffic violation. The stage was set for a narrative that promised to be far more complex than a routine legal proceeding. The week following the courtroom encounter seemed to move in slow motion for Judge Robert Harlow. His routine remained unchanged. Early morning coffee, meticulously organized case files, the familiar rhythm of municipal court proceedings. Yet something lingered beneath the surface, a persistent thought that refused to be dismissed. Sarah Thompson's file found its way to the top of his desk multiple times, not by design, but with a peculiar frequency that suggested more than mere coincidence. Each time he reviewed the documents, new details emerged, painting a more complex picture than his initial judgment had captured. His assistant, Margaret, a veteran court administrator with 30 years of experience, noticed the subtle shift in his usual approach. "Something's different," she observed one morning, setting down his favorite ceramic mug. a gift from his late wife, adorned with faded judicial scales. Harlow's professional network was extensive. Decades of legal work had connected him to a web of colleagues, judges, and legal professionals across the region. It was through these connections that deeper information about Sarah began to surface. A lunch meeting with a federal district court judge revealed unexpected layers. Thompson. His colleague mentioned between bites of a carefully prepared salad. She's one of the most promising prosecutors we've seen in years. Remarkable case resolution rate. Complex human trafficking and corporate fraud cases. The information landed like a carefully placed puzzle piece. Each new detail challenged Harlow's initial courtroom assessment, forcing him to reconsider his quick judgment. Sarah's professional background was impressive. Graduate of a top-tier law school, multiple commendations, a track record of pursuing cases that others might consider too complex or challenging. Her work wasn't just about legal victories. It was about seeking genuine justice. Harlow found himself researching more, not out of professional obligation, but a growing sense of personal curiosity. Digital records, professional databases, occasional mentions in legal journals, each source painted a picture of a dedicated professional committed to making a meaningful difference. One particular case caught his attention, a complex investigation involving a multinational corporation's illegal activities. Sarah had spent months meticulously building a case, working alongside federal investigators, demonstrating patience and strategic thinking that went far beyond typical legal proceedings. His study became a quiet reflection. The same judicial system he had served for decades suddenly appeared through a different lens, not just a mechanism for processing violations, but a platform for understanding human complexity. Margaret noticed the change. Scattered case files were now organized with unusual precision. Handwritten notes appeared in margins, unusual for a judge who typically maintained pristine documentation. Something was shifting in Harlow's professional perspective. During a routine administrative meeting, conversations about Sarah emerged indirectly. Colleagues spoke of her innovative approach to legal challenges, her ability to see beyond surface-level information. These weren't just professional compliments. They were genuine respect. Harlow's evening routine changed subtly. Instead of immediately retiring after dinner, he found himself reviewing professional journals, reading about emerging approaches to judicial understanding. Books about unconscious bias and systemic perspectives found their way to his reading table. The traffic violation that had seemed so straightforward now appeared as a complex narrative. What circumstances had led to that moment? What untold story existed behind those few minutes in the courtroom? Each new piece of information about Sarah challenged Harlow's initial perception. She wasn't just another name in a case file. She represented a generation of legal professionals committed to understanding, not just processing. His reflection wasn't about guilt. It was about growth, a recognition that every interaction carries deeper potential for understanding. The week concluded with Harlow making a decision that would alter the trajectory of both his and Sarah's professional journey. A bridge was about to be constructed, not through grand gestures, but through genuine human connection. The annual Judicial and Prosecution Professional Conference was never just another event for legal practitioners. It was a melting pot of ideas, a space where professionals from different corners of the legal world converged to share insights, challenges, and innovative approaches to justice. The conference hall buzzed with intellectual energy. Rows of neatly arranged tables, state-of-the-art presentation screens, and a diverse gathering of legal minds created an atmosphere of anticipation. Professionals dressed in carefully selected business attire moved between sessions, their conversations a subtle mix of professional discourse and personal networking. Judge Harlow arrived early, a habit cultivated over decades of professional discipline. His usual reserved demeanor seemed slightly different, a hint of anticipation that colleagues might have noticed had they been paying closer attention. The morning's first keynote session focused on innovative approaches to community justice. As speakers shared their perspectives, Harlow found his attention drifting. His mind replayed fragments of Sarah Thompson's courtroom appearance, the details he gathered in the weeks since their initial encounter. Lunch was served in a large conference hall. Round tables draped in crisp white linens created intimate spaces for conversation. Harlow selected a table near the back, his typical preference for observing rather than being the center of attention. And then fate intervened. Sarah Thompson walked into the room, her professional confidence evident in every step. She scanned the room, looking for an available seat. In a hall filled with potential colleagues, her eyes unexpectedly locked with Harlow's. For a moment, time seemed to pause. A subtle smile of recognition passed between them. Not of previous tension, but of mutual professional respect. Sarah approached, her movement deliberate and confident. "May I?" she asked, gesturing to the empty seat beside Harlow. The seating arrangement was more than a coincidence. It felt like a narrative waiting to unfold, a story of unexpected connection and professional understanding. Harlow nodded, gesturing for her to sit. The space between them carried the weight of their previous encounter, now transformed into an opportunity for genuine conversation. Their initial exchanges were carefully measured, professional, respectful. Sarah spoke about her recent casework, her passion for seeking justice evident in every carefully chosen word. Harlow listened, truly listened, with a level of attention that went beyond his typical judicial demeanor. They discovered unexpected common ground. Both had entered the legal profession with idealistic perspectives. Both had witnessed the complex realities of the justice system over decades. Their conversation flowed naturally, moving beyond the initial courtroom interaction. Sarah shared stories of challenging cases, of moments that had defined her professional journey. Harlow offered insights from his years of judicial experience, his perspective tempered by years of observing human complexity. The conference around them continued. Presentations happened. Professionals networked. But at their table, a different kind of connection was forming. Colleagues occasionally glanced their way, surprised by the animated conversation between a municipal court judge and a federal prosecutor. What appeared to be an unlikely pairing was revealing itself as a profound professional dialogue. As lunch progressed, the initial formality dissolved. They discussed systemic challenges, potential improvements in legal processes, and the broader mission of justice. Their conversation transcended professional titles, becoming a genuine exchange of human perspectives. Harlow found himself sharing stories he'd rarely discussed, moments that had shaped his understanding of justice. Sarah listened with genuine interest, her professional curiosity complementing her empathetic approach. The lunch hour passed quickly. As other professionals began leaving, Harlow and Sarah continued their conversation, seemingly oblivious to the changing room around them. A twist of fate had transformed a tense courtroom moment into an unexpected opportunity for mutual understanding. The conference's afternoon sessions provided a backdrop to the profound conversation that had begun during lunch. Sarah and Judge Harlow found themselves gravitating toward a quiet corner of the conference center, away from the bustling main halls. A large window overlooked the city's judicial district, a symbolic landscape of institutional buildings that had witnessed countless human stories. Sarah leaned against the window frame, her professional facade softening into a more reflective moment. "You know," she began, her voice carrying a mix of professional insight and personal vulnerability, "my journey wasn't always straightforward." Harlow listened, his decades of judicial experience creating a space of genuine attentiveness. The professional distance that had defined their initial encounter had transformed into something more nuanced, a genuine human connection. Sarah shared fragments of her professional path. Growing up in a small Midwestern town, she had witnessed community challenges that sparked her passion for justice. Her father, a local high school teacher, had instilled in her a belief that true understanding requires looking beyond surface-level appearances. "My first internship was in a public defender's office," she explained, her eyes reflecting memories of those early professional years. "I realized quickly that every legal case is more than just paperwork. It's about human stories." Harlow nodded, his own professional journey emerging through subtle reflections. He spoke about his early years as a young judge, the idealism that had driven him, and the complex realities he had encountered. Their conversation moved beyond professional experiences, touching on personal philosophies of justice, compassion, and human understanding. The initial tension from their courtroom encounter had completely dissolved, replaced by a genuine intellectual and emotional connection. "I've made mistakes," Harlow admitted, a rare moment of professional vulnerability. Rushing to judgment, not fully hearing the complete story. It's something that haunts a judge's career. Sarah's response was compassionate. "We're all learning," she said. "The system improves when we acknowledge our limitations and remain committed to growth." The conference continued around them, but their conversation had transcended the typical professional networking. They discussed systemic challenges, potential improvements in legal processes, and the broader mission of justice. Harlow shared insights from his decades of judicial experience, stories of cases that had challenged his understanding, moments that had reshaped his perspective on justice. Sarah listened with a combination of professional curiosity and genuine empathy. Their backgrounds, while different, revealed unexpected similarities. Both had entered the legal profession with a deep commitment to fairness. Both had witnessed the complex human stories that existed behind legal proceedings. A professional photographer capturing conference moments discreetly captured their conversation. Two figures standing by the window, engaged in what appeared to be a profound dialogue. The image would later circulate among legal professionals, symbolizing a bridge between different judicial perspectives. As the afternoon light shifted, casting long shadows across the conference center, their conversation continued. They discussed innovative approaches to community justice, the importance of understanding individual narratives, and the continuous need for professional growth. "It's not about being perfect," Sarah observed, her insight cutting through institutional formalities. "It's about being committed to understanding." Harlow reflected on their unexpected connection. What had begun as a tense courtroom moment had transformed into a profound professional and personal dialogue. The rigid boundaries of judicial hierarchy seemed to dissolve, replaced by a genuine human connection. Their conversation was more than a professional exchange. It was a testament to the power of genuine listening, of looking beyond initial perceptions, and of finding common ground in unexpected places. As the conference began winding down, both Sarah and Harlow realized something significant had occurred. More than a conversation, they had discovered a shared commitment to a more nuanced, compassionate approach to justice. The weeks following the conference buzzed with unexpected energy. Judge Harlow's approach to his municipal court transformed subtly, almost imperceptibly. Where he once saw cases as mere legal transactions, he now recognized each as a complex human narrative waiting to be understood. Sarah's influence lingered in his professional consciousness. Her commitment to looking beyond surface-level information had planted a seed of professional reimagination. He began implementing small but significant changes. Pre-hearing consultations became more comprehensive. Legal briefs were reviewed with enhanced scrutiny. Each case file now represented more than just a set of legal documents. It represented a human story. Margaret, his longtime court administrator, noticed the shift immediately. Additional time was allocated for each hearing. Defendants were given more opportunities to explain circumstances. The mechanical efficiency of the court was gradually being replaced by a more empathetic approach. "Something's changed," Margaret observed one morning, organizing case files with her characteristic precision. "You're listening differently." Harlow's research became more comprehensive. He started attending professional development workshops, studying innovative approaches to community justice. Books about systemic understanding and judicial empathy found prominent places in his office library. Sarah, meanwhile, continued her federal prosecution work with the same intense dedication. But their conference conversation had sparked something more, a shared vision of transformative justice. Their communication continued through professional channels, occasional emails, brief phone conversations, exchanging research and insights. Each interaction revealed deeper layers of mutual professional respect. A breakthrough came unexpectedly. During a regional judicial conference, Harlow proposed a radical concept, a mentorship and training program that would bridge different legal perspectives. Young legal professionals could learn from experienced practitioners, focusing not just on legal technicalities, but on human understanding. The proposal was met with mixed reactions. Traditional legal professionals saw it as a potential disruption to established systems. Younger practitioners viewed it as an innovative approach to justice. Sarah became an unexpected ally. Her federal prosecution experience and strategic thinking provided crucial support to Harlow's vision. Together, they began drafting a comprehensive proposal that would challenge existing professional development models. Their collaborative approach was unique. Harlow brought decades of judicial experience, a deep understanding of municipal legal processes. Sarah contributed her innovative perspective, her experience with complex federal cases, and a forward-thinking approach to legal education. Preliminary meetings with judicial committees and legal education boards revealed the proposal's potential. It wasn't just about training lawyers. It was about reimagining the entire approach to legal professional development. Key components of their proposed program included comprehensive case study analyses that emphasized human context, workshops focusing on unconscious bias and systemic understanding, mentorship programs connecting experienced practitioners with emerging legal professionals, interactive training modules that went beyond traditional legal education. The proposal represented more than a professional initiative. It was a statement about the evolution of justice, moving from a purely transactional model to a more empathetic, comprehensive approach. Harlow found himself reinvigorated. What had begun as a moment of professional reflection had transformed into a potential systemic change. Sarah's influence had opened doors he hadn't known existed. Their unexpected connection, born from a tense courtroom moment, was becoming a catalyst for broader professional transformation. The legal community watched with a mix of curiosity and anticipation. A municipal court judge and a federal prosecutor were challenging established professional narratives, proposing a radical reimagination of legal education and practice. As winter transitioned to early spring, their collaborative vision began taking concrete shape. What seemed impossible months ago now appeared tantalizingly achievable. A single unexpected conversation was proving to be the beginning of something much larger than either had initially imagined. The mentorship program's initial planning sessions happened in a conference room overlooking the city's judicial district. Large windows framed a landscape of institutional buildings, symbolic of the systemic changes they were proposing. Sarah arrived early, her leather briefcase filled with meticulously prepared research. Harlow was already there, reviewing preliminary draft documents with the careful attention he had become known for in recent months. "We're asking the legal community to fundamentally reimagine how we approach professional development," Sarah observed, spreading out a series of research papers and draft proposals. Their collaborative approach was unique. Where traditional legal partnerships might feel mechanical, theirs carried a sense of genuine mutual respect. Each brought distinct perspectives. Harlow's decades of judicial experience complementing Sarah's innovative federal prosecution background. Initial drafts focused on creating a comprehensive training model, not just another professional development program, but a transformative educational experience that would challenge existing legal education paradigms. Key design elements emerge: immersive case study experiences, mentorship modules connecting experienced practitioners with emerging professionals, workshops addressing systemic biases, interactive training that emphasized human context beyond legal technicalities. Local legal institutions showed cautious interest. The proposal represented more than a training program. It was a statement about evolving judicial understanding. Their personal connection continued to evolve. What had begun as a tense courtroom encounter had transformed into a profound professional partnership. Regular strategy meetings became opportunities for deeper conversations about justice, professional growth, and systemic change. Harlow discovered a renewed sense of professional purpose. The bureaucratic approach that had defined his earlier career was being replaced by a more nuanced, empathetic perspective. Sarah's influence had reopened his understanding of what justice could represent. Sarah, equally transformed, found in Harlow an unexpected mentor and collaborator. His decades of experience provided context to her innovative approaches. Together, they were creating something larger than individual professional achievements. The program's design incorporated innovative technological components, virtual training modules, interactive case analysis platforms, and comprehensive online resources were carefully integrated. This wasn't just a traditional training program. It was a technological reimagining of legal professional development. Local law schools and judicial training centers began showing serious interest. Initial presentations revealed the program's potential to address long-standing challenges in legal education. "We're not just training lawyers," Harlow explained during one presentation. "We're preparing professionals to understand the human stories behind legal proceedings." Sarah would often compliment his perspective, adding layers of complexity to their proposed approach. Their presentations became a dance of professional insights, challenging traditional legal education models. Research data supported their vision. Studies highlighting the importance of empathy in legal practice, the impact of systemic understanding, and the need for more comprehensive professional training became cornerstone arguments. The mentorship program began taking shape as more than a theoretical concept. Detailed curriculum outlines, technological integration strategies, and comprehensive training modules emerged from their collaborative efforts. Local judicial committees requested additional presentations. What had begun as a speculative proposal was gaining serious institutional momentum. Their professional partnership continued to evolve. Regular strategy sessions became opportunities for deeper conversations about justice, professional growth, and systemic transformation. By integrating technology, comprehensive case studies, and innovative training approaches, they were proposing a fundamental reimagination of legal professional development. The conference room where they met became a space of possibility. Large windows framed a cityscape that seemed to reflect their expanding vision, institutional structures gradually transforming, making space for new perspectives. Their unexpected connection was proving to be a catalyst for broader systemic change. 5 years had passed since that unexpected courtroom encounter. The mentorship program that began as a speculative proposal had become a nationally recognized model for legal professional development. The annual conference hall buzzed with energy. Legal professionals from across the country gathered to witness the program's latest achievements. At the center of the stage stood Judge Robert Harlow and Sarah Thompson, their partnership now legendary within legal circles. "We didn't set out to change the entire system," Sarah told the assembled crowd, her voice carrying the quiet confidence of someone who had witnessed genuine transformation. "We simply chose to listen, to understand." The program had expanded far beyond their initial vision. What had started as a local initiative now influenced legal training nationwide. Law schools, judicial training centers, and professional development programs had adopted elements of their innovative approach. Key achievements were highlighted on massive screens behind them. 78% reduction in unconscious bias incidents in participating legal institutions, improved case resolution rates, enhanced professional empathy among emerging legal professionals, comprehensive training modules now used in 42 states. Harlow reflected on their journey. The rigid judge who once made quick judgments had transformed. His approach now emphasized understanding, context, and human complexity. Younger legal professionals approached them throughout the conference, seeking insights, sharing stories of how the program had impacted their professional perspectives. It wasn't about creating perfect lawyers, Harlow explained during a panel discussion. It was about creating compassionate professionals who understand that every legal case represents a human story. Their partnership had become more than a professional collaboration. It represented a fundamental shift in how the legal community approached professional development, justice, and human understanding. The mentorship program had developed technology platforms that allowed for immersive learning experiences, virtual case studies, interactive training modules, and comprehensive resources provided emerging professionals with unprecedented insights. Sarah's federal prosecution experience had been crucial. Her ability to navigate complex legal landscapes complemented Harlow's judicial perspective. Together, they had created something far more significant than either could have achieved independently. Local and national media had documented their journey. What had begun as a tense courtroom moment had transformed into a national movement towards more empathetic legal practices. Educational institutions began requesting their consultation. Law schools redesigned curriculum based on their innovative approaches. Judicial training centers incorporated their comprehensive understanding of systemic challenges. During a quiet moment between conference sessions, Sarah and Harlow reflected on their unexpected journey. "We never planned this," Sarah observed, looking out over the conference hall filled with legal professionals inspired by their work. Harlow smiled, the years of judicial experience softening his expression. "The best transformations are often unplanned," he responded. Their program had become more than a professional initiative. It represented a broader commitment to understanding, to seeing beyond surface-level interactions, to recognizing the human stories behind every legal proceeding. The conference hall stood as a testament to their journey. Young legal professionals networked, shared insights, engaged in discussions that would have been unimaginable just a few years earlier. As the conference concluded, Sarah and Harlow stood together, no longer just a municipal court judge and a federal prosecutor, but architects of a more compassionate approach to justice. Their unexpected connection had become a catalyst for systemic change, proving that genuine understanding could transform even the most established institutional practices. The story that began with a tense courtroom moment had become a narrative of hope, growth, and the profound potential of human connection.